The opinions, viewpoints, and beliefs presented on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the management, the affiliates and broadcast partners, or the sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Scarefest Radio, the radio you can see.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to Scarefest Television for July 16th, 2021. We're as we like to say on the farm, we got her by the short hairs. The Scarefest is right around the corner. There are a lot of wheels in motion, one of which we get to announce tonight. We do have a celebrity announcement tonight that I'll drop at the 30-minute mark. Let's see. Let's give Chad some credit. Okay, there's Dani. She's my guest tonight. The lovely and talented Dani Bailey, who was loads of fun last time. And actually, we came up with some memorable quotes for that night. Chad Harlan is my co-host tonight. And because Cece's out of town or some bullshit. It was her turn, but she always has. She's got a life, Chad. She's got a life. What's that like?
Hey, I don't know. Somebody needs one, I guess. The rest of us will sit here and play with our computers.
That's pretty. Because of the goings on with the weather on the farm. That's a good thing that's come out of it, everybody. I have sat at my computer and I have caught up so much this week on Scarefest stuff. We have a working mailing list now. So you get to start getting spammed like every 2 days from us. And so anyway, now everybody, if you remember, Dani was scheduled to speak, I guess it's been 3 years ago now, about her family's connection to the infamous Ed Gein case, and it happened like in her backyard. So because but anyway, so she's gonna come this year. She's gonna be telling us about that, and we will include her adventures on the set of Friday the 13th, Vengeance 2 Bloodlines. So, okay, as much as I didn't want to start with that, Dani, I'm going to start with that. Now, what's the story behind how you got into this? How you understand, like, you won something?
Yeah, it was really cool. So, when I first flew down to Arizona to meet Kane Hodder, I was introduced to this guy named Peter Anthony, who as a huge part, producer, director, with Friday the 13th, Vengeance, basically all three films. When they were getting ready to start filming Vengeance 2, which is the second, Peter came up with this idea that in one DVD, they were going to put a golden ticket. And that golden ticket was basically you get to be killed by Jason on screen. I'm not sure a total number of how many DVDs went out, but I won it. And believe it or not, it was really crazy because the DVD didn't come to my house. It went to my old address. So I'm like, where's my DVD? And I kept, asking everybody. I was messaging, Peter, I can't find my DVD anywhere. And then finally I get this random Facebook message from this girl. She's like, hey, I think I have a box for you. You should probably come get it. So I drive over there and I get my box. I get in the car and I was like, oh, finally, it's my Vengeance DVD. I don't think anything of it. I tear it open and open up the DVD and the golden ticket falls out onto my lap. And I immediately went off the road and hit a ditch and sat there and just kind of shook for a few minutes. And then I was interviewed by Peter and Jason, who plays Jason Voorhees. And they told me over the interview that the production team was actually going to fly me down there and kind of set me up. Well, I went down, I did my scene, I had a blast, I kind of jumped in and helped where I could, and I ended up being flown back by the producer, Sean Lutzis, to kind of do some craft services and PA work for the last week of filming. So I actually got to be there basically the entire film set. There's only a few days that I didn't get to be part of it. So when I wasn't filming my scene, I was getting to work behind the scenes, helping out with as much as I could get my hands on, pretty much. And I fangirled the entire time I was there.
So the secret to get help at the Scarefest is to make people think they won a contest. Yeah. So we need food service. Put a golden ticket in something. Somebody will do it. Now, in your opinion, now you've actually though done a little amateur acting. We showed one of your short films that your family basically worked on, is my understanding. And I thought you were terribly underused in that.
Oh, thank you.
You're so beautiful and talented, and I don't think you had a line in the whole movie. You just stood there and looked fucking creepy. So,
I got that pale skin. I'm really good at looking extremely creepy.
You and everyone else in Alaska, I'd say. Now, that, so now what was, what was your scene? You can't drop spoilers, but okay, you got killed by Jason, You know, sometimes that's, okay, what was it the normal teenage sex scene that you got killed during, or how did you come about it?
I kept asking for that, but they weren't gonna let me show anything. So I tried, but no, it was I don't want to give away any spoilers. The scene was very intense, a lot more intense than I thought it was gonna be. It definitely had my stamp of approval on how I would want to go out. I do know that I did a good enough job that when I walked off of there, I was signed by a talent manager, and I'm actually finishing that contract as we speak. So I'm now represented by a talent manager, aka Talent, which I'm just completely thrilled about. And so I'm hoping that I can kind of push my career forward a little bit further. I'm in contact with SAG right now, so I'm trying to get that set up. So I'm hoping that this was kind of a little, kickstarter to my career that I've been wanting for so long.
I'm impressed. Most people have to sit at the soda fountain all day to get discovered by a Hollywood agent. Over to you, Chad.
Well, you just answered my next question I had, which is, do you intend to pursue this, and or was it a one-off deal? So you're looking at pursuing it. Wes talked a little bit about some other stuff you've done. Do you have any other experience, or have you worked in any local theater or anything?
I did. Growing up, I did a lot of theater work in high school, and then there's a local theater here in Alaska called Pier 1 that I worked at. But mostly what I've done, I did a lot of writing, and then I've done a few horror shorts, but there's only been the one that we actually published, just because we're really OCD about how we want it to look when it's all said and done. We have a few more that we're working on. I have a couple speaking roles that I'm working on, because I've mainly just been, like you said, a creepy ghoul in the background. So I have a few more that are kind of in the works, but this has really been, outside of theater work, the most I've done. I being in Alaska, there's just not a lot of opportunity to really get your foot in the door. So I have to just say the biggest thank you to Peter Anthony and Jason Brooks and Sean Lutzis and his family and the entire Vengeance family for going above and beyond to make this happen for me and getting me down there. I mean, they really were. When you hear people talk about the Vengeance set just being this big family, they're not lying. Everybody there was incredible. Cody, our cinematographer, Cody Newton, him and Tenna, when I was filming my scene, I mean, they were really pushing me, like they were like, come on, give a little bit more, they were giving me pointers, which I think really helped me figure out that I had it. Because it's easy to say, oh yeah, no, I want to be an actress. But when you're actually in the moment and you got a couple cameras on you and you're having to act something out, you have a tendency to want to kind of clam up and not do it. But with the team that I had, it made it so easy. And then of course, Jason plays Jason so well that you really don't have to act it. I mean, your reactions are pretty natural when you have, that dude, he's like a tree coming at you and he's in character. It's pretty easy to freak out and shriek at the top of your lungs. So I definitely have to really just thank them for giving me the stepping stone to go forward and know that I have what it takes and to push myself further. Definitely.
And let's take it back a little bit further. So you came across this opportunity because you got a golden ticket out of a horror film. How did you develop your interest and love of horror? And was that something you always had, or something that's developed more recently?
I can take it back to when I was 11 years old. I rented this movie called Monster with Charlize Theron, which I think everybody knows about. At the very end of Monster, Kane Hodder has an appearance. He is the cop that puts her in the back of a police car. I was 11 and I had a little kid crush, and I was like, oh my gosh, that guy's so attractive. And so I decided to fangirl and get all of his movies, which eventually led me into horror. And then as I was getting into horror, I realized I had the Ed Gein connection with my family. Now, growing up, my grandparents always told me stories, and they called him Eddie Gein. So I really didn't make the connection right away. It was, oh, Eddie Gein's house, and Eddie Gein had this, and, you know, he had skin on the back of his couch, and they would tell me these awful stories, and I was a little girl, so I was like, sorry, I'm getting my son just came by to say hi. They would always tell me these really gross stories. Well, then once I became a teenager and I started getting really into horror, I was watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre with my soon-to-be husband at the time, and I was like, well, who is this based off of? Is this, you know, is this a true story? Everybody, you know, they have all, you know, no one really knew in the little town I was in. And he was like, oh, hold on, and he pops in this DVD on Ed Gein, and they start showing all of these crime scene photos, and I was like, oh, it's real. Oh my gosh, my grandpa worked this case. And he was like, no, he didn't. I was like, no, seriously, my grandpa worked the case. And I think that moment is when I really went just gung-ho. And I you know, knowing that I had the connection that I did and being a fan of Kane. And then I found out that Kane actually plays Ed Gein in a movie. And I showed it on my last interview, but I always like to show it off. So I had Ed Gein, Kane playing Ed Gein tattooed, and I had Kane sign it. So pretty much just that, you know, Friday the 13th quickly became my favorite. Right off the bat, I'd watched every franchise I could get my hands on, and that one just, I don't know, something about it, you know. I think me and a lot of other people would have to agree. It quickly became my favorite, and so I started saving up money to go to conventions and start getting to meet these icons, and now I've gotten to work with a few of them, and that is something that, you know, you just can't put into words. Coming from a little Alaskan town fan to actually getting to share the stage with some of them has been mind-blowing.
That is an amazing journey. We're up against our first break, so let's toss over to that, and we'll be back in a minute.
We'll be right back.
Everyone is talking about CBD oil. Most of us know that CBD is a cannabis compound that has significant medical benefits, but does not make people high. Its benefits include pain relief, anti-seizure properties, anxiety relief, fights cancer, reduces the risk of diabetes, and it is even used as a sleep aid. Blue Leaf Naturals CBD and hemp products are full-spectrum hemp extract oils. They use only hemp grown in Kentucky, supporting Kentucky farmers and businesses and helping you and your family stay healthy and well. Blue Leaf Naturals, created with care from seed to shelf. Visit their website at blueleafnaturals.com. Blue Leaf Naturals, a Kentucky proud company.
Horror, movies, fans, for life. On Facebook, find us. For watch parties, for news, for memes, for friends, for life. Horror movie fans for life. Join us.
And welcome back, everybody, to Scarefest TV. Since we're on the topic of Kane Hodder, how much does an authentic piece of movie memorabilia go for nowadays? Couple thousand, 10,000? Nope. Try again. A recent live auction held by Entertainment Memorabilia Treasures from Film and Television, very, very long name, just sold an authentic hockey mask worn by Kane Hodder. He wore it in Jason Goes to Hell for a whopping $250,000. $225,000. The iconic mask, which was signed by Hodder, appeared in the scene where a SWAT team ambushes and blows Jason to smithereens. Spoiler alert! The movie may have been a bit of a box office stud, but the props are killing it. So, that was reported by Horror News Network. Wanted to get that in. We're trying to keep everybody up on what's going on. Okay, I do want to point out, now, we're going to, someone suggested to upper management, above me, upper management, that we start a TikTok channel. So we're going to start trying to put together some little skits. So when you're in Kentucky, Dani, we'll work on having you killed during that little teenage sex scene that you've been bringing up. I do want to ask, okay, spoiler alert here, but were you gutted or did you just slowly bleed to death?
I can't say. It is more epic than that.
More epic than that.
It's more epic than that. Yeah, it is. I mean, I might be biased, but I think I have one of the more gruesome death scenes in the movie.
Okay. Cool. Fair enough. Okay, over to Ed Gein or Dean or whoever you're speaking to. We discussed this last time you were on. Apparently you can say Gein, and people will still know who the hell he is. Now, for the viewing public though, Ed Gein, that's how I say it because Uncle Gein, was this guy that basically little parts of his story have been used in nearly every horror movie ever made. Am I correct? He's only attributed with actually killing one or two people.
I believe three in total. He confessed. They found one body. He confessed to two more women.
So, but basically, everybody, when he ran out of warm bodies, he went to the cemetery and just started digging. Yep. But he was he made shit. This was not just your typical spree killer or serial killer. This guy was a craftsman. He was.
My favorite that he made was the nipple belt. That's definitely.
Yes, I was going to bring that up.
I actually recreated it. I recreated the nipple belt, and I'm going to bring it with me to show everybody. But I definitely got some prosthetics out and just had a heyday. So I have a nipple belt replica.
But wait a minute. Store-bought nipples? I don't know if that's going to sell or not.
I had models. I cast my own nipples for it.
Cool. 225,000. You autograph that bitch. I'm not gonna know. Well, we got a question. He was great. Oh, yes. And our famous line. Apparently, everybody in town thought he was the best babysitter ever, so he was great with kids. But he's a serial killer. Which I still think should be the name of your speech. I totally do. Now, okay, let's explain to everybody you told kind of how you found out about the connection, but you had two family members, I believe you said,
yes,
that were of course. Now, what state was that?
Wisconsin.
So, but after I read the story, everybody in Wisconsin walked through that yard. So
yeah,
so
it became a really big deal for the town. Like I know my grandma. Part of the burning, I guess you would say, of his property, because everybody started to show up and kind of just take a tour and look at everything.
But so you had your grandfather and his brother.
Yes.
Okay, we're involved.
So they were game wardens for the state of Wisconsin. My grandfather's brother, his name was Jim Washburn, was friends with the Deputy Sheriff Frank Warden. So when his mother went missing, they ended up coming back. They were out. It was November and snowing, so everybody was kind of out deer hunting at the time. The sheriff showed back up. He found a blood trail. His mother was missing. The cash register was broken open, and there was a receipt on the counter for a gallon of antifreeze that was signed by Ed Gein, who had already been kind of known as the town weirdo. You know, like even though he was a great babysitter and they could drop their kids off with him, you know, he was still a little on the oddball side. So he called my great uncle Jim to come with him. They went out there. They followed according to now this is coming from Jim and what I was told. They found a blood trail in the snow. They followed the blood trail out past the house to a shop that was kind of adjacent to the house. They opened it up, and she was hanging upside down, and she had sticks kind of through her rib cage, like he was cooling her the same way that hunters would cool a deer. And she was beheaded. Once that happened and they kind of started to figure it out, they started calling as many people as they could, basically, to show up and start moving things out of the house. As they got in there, they realized very quickly that they didn't know what was human and what wasn't. Ed was also into collecting trash and garbage, so he was a hoarder. So he would go to the dump and he would bring truckloads of trash in and just pile them everywhere. So my grandpa always told this story that when he got called, he went into the house and he was overtaken by the smell. It smelled like trash and, you know, body parts, you know, that have been buried for some time. So that probably smelled incredible. He was leaning over the back of the couch, kind of like feeling nauseous, and he was taking it all in. And he looked down and he realized that what he was leaning on the couch was actually skin that Ed had sewn to the back of his couch and to the armrests of his couch. So my grandpa had to go outside and throw up. He couldn't handle it. But yeah, and then that's when things started going missing. They started pocketing things, you know, as they were going through. Not everything went where it should have gone. People were stealing things. So that's how I ended up with the arrowhead. Somebody pocketed that.
Do you realize, Chad, that I'm like one nipple belt and a skin lampshade from being Ed?
We've all suspected. So, Dani, you talked a little bit earlier about how the family lore talked about Eddie Gein and stuff like that. What were the stories that were being told?
Oh my gosh. My grandma was really famous for most of the stories. She actually would always tell a story that she was in a store and he was in front of her buying soda, and he turned around and he kind of gave her this really dead stare. And this was a couple of years before he was arrested. And so that kind of always stuck with her. The main stories I heard were my grandpa leaning over the back of the couch and almost throwing up everywhere. Apparently Ed was known for, when the couple of people that he did kill, he would take buckets of blood out and dump it into his front yard. And that was kind of a big deal for whatever reason. The town really obsessed over that. He was also, what he was doing was, and a lot of people had this idea that he was going out and he was digging up these really old, decrepit, nasty bodies. That's kind of like the idea. That's really not what was happening. I think he did it a couple of times, but what he was doing was he was following the papers. And when they would announce an older woman that resembled his mother, he would go while she was still freshly buried. And he would dig up the dirt that was freshly put there. I mean, he was a little guy. I mean, we're talking tiny little old dude. He's not going to be moving, you know, somebody buried in the 1800s. So he would hit these fresh graves, and then he was mostly stealing jewelry and rings and family heirlooms and stuff. And then, of course, he was starting to collect skin, body parts, ears. He had kind of an array of things that he was taking off these women. Genitalia was another big one. He was taking a lot of that. And there was this huge uproar in the town when it all kind of came to light of people were wanting to know, well, did my loved one, did my mom or my sister or my grandmother, you know, was her grave dug up? And so then they were trying to keep people, I mean, it was just mass chaos. So the town actually got together and burned the place down. And it still to this day is like, they don't know what happened, but everybody in the town knew what happened. The fire department just kind of left for the day and were like, have at it, because they didn't want it they didn't want to deal with it anymore. It was just kind of overwhelming for everyone. They'd never seen anything like it. It was a 155-acre farm. He had no power, no water. And at the time, he was kind of an oddball for that. So a lot of the rooms were dark. He had kind of cordoned off his mother's room. And then, like I said, he had just filled it full of garbage. And you'll see, like I sent in a couple photos. You can kind of get a good look of just how much. He was only living in one room of the house. And everything else was cordoned off. So, and this had gone on for years, really, before they figured out what he was doing.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So growing up hearing that, was it something that, as a child you really absorbed and thought this is, a very interesting family artifact, or do you think it was more like the boogeyman ghost story type thing?
I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it for years. I remember thinking, like, they would tell me these stories, and I came from a family of law enforcement background. My grandpa served, or my grandmother was one of the first female police officers for her time, and I remember hearing it and just being like, you guys are crazy. Like, if that happened, everybody would know about it. Everybody would know. I mean, he was like the ghoul. I remember them calling him the ghoul of Plainfield. And, he had all these body parts, and as a little kid, your brain conjures up what you think that house would look like. And I remember just not believing it until I got that DVD. And then when we were watching behind the scenes, they were telling stories on that DVD that I had heard growing up from my grandmother. And that was a total trip. That was really hard to wrap my head around. I was like, wow, wait. And then it clicked. I was like, wait, I have an arrowhead. I was given an arrowhead, that had been passed down. So I immediately went and found it, and it had been, my grandpa had like really taped it up, and he had written on the outside of it. And I remember opening it up and just holding it and staring at it and thinking like, wow, what is the history behind this? Where did Ed get it? That was my biggest question. I do know that it came from the top drawer of his bedroom. Where it came from or how it got there is a mystery, so it's really cool. It's really, I haven't had the opportunity to go back. I still have family in Wisconsin, so I would love the opportunity one day to go back and kind of get to see it, and get to see what he saw. But I do know that it definitely traumatized my grandpa and my grandma. They liked to talk about it, but didn't like to talk about it. It was sure. It was, at the time, was the biggest thing that had ever happened in that area. And to this day, I think it's one of the biggest things to ever happen.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's still right up there, I'm sure.
Still up there, yeah.
We're getting right up to the next break, and when we get back, we'll look at some of those pictures and talk to you about those, and I think there's an announcement coming up.
Yes, when we come back from this segment, we will give you our next celebrity announcement for Scarefest 2021.
Spirit Mechanics is here to help. Their background includes many different specialties across the metaphysical spectrum, including alchemy, shamanism, Celtic witchcraft, angelic magic, astral travel, and more.
With over 30 years combined experience in the group, you can be confident in their ability to help. If there is a question you have that you cannot answer, they will do their best to assist you.
Metaphysics can be intimidating, confusing, and unfortunately, abused. Spirit Mechanics takes pride in being selfless in the pursuit of helping others, being humble and honest with their clients about their questions, and lastly, maintaining a professional and personable atmosphere. They want you to feel as you are coming to a close friend, and they will do everything in their power to make you comfortable and safe.
TellMeTarot.com. Rare tarot and oracle decks for the discerning enthusiast or collector. Odd decks are not for everyone. If you are a rare deck collector, art collector, or simply fall in love with a deck, then we might be for you. Right now, get 10% off your first order just for subscribing to their newsletter. Shipping is just $5.99 in the United States. TellMeTarot.com.
And welcome back, everybody, to Scarefest TV. Yes, we have a celebrity announcement. This will kind of fit in with a couple of our previous announcements, i.e., Torgal and Shepis. Look who we got, everybody. We have Lloyd Kaufman of Trauma Entertainment fame. I mean, the guy's a director, producer. He acts in his movies, Toxic Avenger, Citizen Toxic, Class of Nukem High. Lloyd Kaufman, a legend in the horror industry for making movies that you, would you say movies that you love to hate? Because okay. Tromeo and Juliet, I was not a fan of. Toxic Avenger, I liked it a lot, but he is coming to the Scarefest. And by the way, one more thing on him. He's going to premiere his latest movie, and it is called #Shakespeare Shit Show. I have no idea how we're going to market that, but that is the name of the movie. #Shakespeare Shit Show. Anyway, not shit show, shit. Something. God damn it. Nicole said that the other day, and now that's in my head. Anyway, the word shit is in the title. I'll have to get that. Okay, buy tickets. TheScarefest.com. TheScarefest.com. Get your tickets. And we've still got tickets available for the Axe Throwing event. Kane Hodder, Ari Mihailoff, Rob Mello, Robert Mukes, Steve Nappy, and many more. Actually, if everything works out, that'll be about half the lineup. So we're wanting to fill that up. We want to sell that out this year because everybody talks about it. We want to fill that out, and you can't do that anywhere else. You can't go to any other Comic-Con and throw axes with killers. The film festival entries are open. Filmfreeway.com/thescarefest, or just go to thescarefest.com. Click the film festival link and enter yours now to be judged by our team of professional Scarefest judges. Vendor space. Okay, everybody, now this is something I want to talk about. We've got a lot of vendors. We've got a buttload of floor space this year because the convention center is 1/3 bigger, and we rented the whole floor thinking we were going to space the booth space out. Well, turns out we're not going to have to, so we've got plenty of booth space available. So if you got something to sell, and we've doubled already the space that we've allocated to artist tables, because that's the one that we almost sold out of our artist tables because we just put the normal number up and we said, oh wait, we've got twice as much space. Let's put up twice as many artist tables. So even if you're just wanting an artist table, you can't. We've got the space available. But I mean, we're coming up on the last 3 months, and that's when things really start. Everybody gets their schedule straightened out. So if you're wanting in, now's the time to do it. Hey, July 31st through August 1st, come to Smoky Mountain Fan Fest in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and I will be there in full costume on Saturday as the tomb attendant. Yes, I am going to be dressed as a tomb attendant for your selfies, and if you want your picture taken with me, because I look really cool in that coat and makeup. But the only thing is, I'll also be doing really bad tarot card readings, and I think that will just freak the fuck out of people. Anyway, Sacred Journey Metaphysical Market's coming up the following weekend, August 7th, August 8th. We'll be up there working for the Central Kentucky Mystical Market and the Northern Kentucky Cincinnati area. Sacred Journey Mystical Market, it's at the Holiday Inn and Suites. Go to sacredjourneymarket.com and you can find out all about that. And as mentioned, the following weekend, August 14th and 15th, we'll be at the Central Kentucky Mystical Market. So my August weekends have booked up quickly. And finally, stop by the Scarefest gift shop at scarefestradio.com. We still have Lost Year t-shirts on the website, and Scarefest TV trucker hats. There, I made do that with minor mistakes. Okay. We want to do the photos now. Pull up our photos. Okay, here's your first one. This is the one that I assumed was a family member. It kind of shows. I don't think this one does justice to some of the other photos I've seen of the crap in his house.
Not at all. Not at all. No. The only reason that I wanted to make sure, and I didn't think of it, I should have sent you my other ones of just his house. I'll definitely be bringing those with me. But this one, the gentleman in the background, that is my great uncle Jim Washburn, and that was one of the first walkthroughs he did of the home. And this was the room. This was adjacent to the room that my arrowhead was actually found in. So, if I'm correct, I should be correct here. This is the main area that he was actually living in, which is why it's not as bad. This was the main parlor area of the home.
It bothers me there is no stovepipe on that stove.
Yeah.
My OCD kicked in immediately when I saw that. And so he's either just got a red. Hey, maybe it was a decorative piece. Who knows? Maybe it was just for decoration.
I think he probably just found it somewhere and was like, "Hey, this would be cute. I'm gonna bring this home."
But yeah, that's gonna keep me up tonight. Anyway, okay, now this one I originally thought was just somebody stealing a souvenir, but no, this was evidence collection by someone in her family.
Yeah, my grandpa. I actually found this online and was had a heart attack because that's my grandpa. That's Dale, and that's him moving the cash register out of I'm assuming is going to be the first crime scene, and it's the general store that Bernice Warden went missing from.
And finally, we have the infamous arrowhead that came from the top dresser drawer in his bedroom.
Yep, that's it, and I have it, and I will be bringing it with me, so everybody can get a good look at it.
What a macabre little souvenir to pack around with in your pocket.
Yeah, I love it. It kind of goes with me. I keep it safe. It's usually in glass, but I took it with me when I was filming Vengeance because I had to show it off to everybody. I'm very proud of it. So it goes with me some places.
No, I get it. If I had something famous, I'd probably pack it around too. I had a really cool question about Ed, but now it's completely slipped my mind because every time you start talking about him, my mind just goes weird places. When they got to the farm, help me remember the story. Now, when they got to the farm, he was not there immediately, was he?
No, he was not there. They got to the farm, they followed, they all kind of knew who he was and what had happened when they found the receipt on the table, because they'd already had complaints about him and everything else. They got there, they found the body, and he showed up later on, and I don't remember where he was off the top of my head. But he showed up later on in his pickup truck, and they arrested him there and took him in. And that's the only footage you really see of him, is him getting led to the cop car. And he's kind of just overwhelmed and doesn't really know what's happening. He was actually found unfit to stand trial, and he spent out his remaining years in the Mendota Mental Institution. He died of cancer in the 80s, or complications of cancer. And the only things that you can find about him after the arrest is that he was extremely sweet, just that really nice babysitter that everybody talked about. Everybody who worked with him at the institute said he was kind and sweet and didn't give anybody any trouble, and he just kind of self-proclaimed that he was super weird and would probably keep body collecting if he was let out on his own. But,
not a criminal mastermind. The fact that he autographed his kidnapping scene was a dead giveaway on that. And
according to him, he just went in and he bought it and paid for it, which I thought was kind of odd that he paid for it if he was going to take the cash register anyway. But,
okay, now here's a criminal question. Did they actually, other than the coincidence of events coming together, did they actually find the money on him or anything? I mean, this is somebody else. I'm thinking, I'm playing defense attorney here. Someone else came in afterwards.
I don't think they ever actually found the money on him. I know that it was busted open and money was missing. Not all of the money, but some of the money was missing. So it could have very well been somebody just kind of came in afterwards and I guess stepped over the pool of blood and was like, oh, here's an opportunity. I'm just going to go ahead and take this and leave. I mean, it's definitely, I guess they couldn't really prove that.
This place is going to hell. I had to step over blood to rob the damn place. Anyway,
but yeah, he walked in and he shot her point blank at right where she was standing, and then drug her out and got her in the back of his truck, which I thought was pretty impressive considering he was so little. I mean, she definitely was a lot bigger than him.
He's a dude. We dudes, when it comes time to getting a body,
yeah, step up.
We step up to the plate. That's a good way to put it. Chad, over to you.
Oh, you touched on it a little bit that you said he was charged with 3 murders. What all was he charged on, and what was he? You said, I know he wasn't fit to stand trial, but what all was he alleged to have done?
So there was a lot of actually issues with his trial. So initially, in 1940, he actually had an older brother. A lot of people don't know that. His older brother passed away in 1944. He was born in 1906. In 1944, him and his brother were burning vegetation marsh off of the farm. They had a total of 155 acres. I think his brother had like 80 or 90 of those acres. And as they were clearing it, a fire got out of control. His brother was killed. And for a long time, they thought it was an accident. And then they ended up finding there was an autopsy report that later on got released. And in the autopsy report, there was bruising on the back of his skull, the back of his brother's skull. So they actually think he was responsible for his brother's death initially, because his brother was pushing him at the time to date. So there was that, and that was never proven. A lot of these were never proven. I think Bernice Worden was the only one that they physically got him on because the body was there. When he actually went to stand trial, one of the cops lost it and beat him up. And a lot of people don't know that either. So his trial was postponed for a few years. I don't have my little cheat sheet in front of me, but that all happened in 1957 is when they initially found the body. And I think it was close to 8 to 10 years before he actually stood trial, or well, he didn't stand trial, but actually went to court for it. At that point in time, there was 2 women in the town who had gone missing. He confessed that he killed both of those women, but they never found any body parts in the home. There was too many body parts to really know whose was whose, and this is obviously well before DNA testing, so they didn't know where he had gotten a lot of it. So Bernice Worden was the only one that they actually found her body on the premise. And he also had things like he was into cannibalistic stuff, so he had magazines shipped over from the islands. He had things like that. He had shrunken heads that a lot of people talk about. And they were more, I mean, aside from the one murder, they were more taken back by the vast amount of body parts in the home. Like he had skulls that he had turned into soup bowls and cereal bowls. He had the nipple belt. He had boxes of female genitalia. He had a whole human face that he had sewn together and mounted on the wall like a deer. He had, obviously, the skin suit that everybody talks about. He had a cauldron that Zach Bagans actually currently owns. That's a big deal that he there was body parts in it, apparently. I almost forgot. I have a really good family story. So my grandmother had a really close friend who was his neighbor. And the year before he got arrested, and this was during the time that the first woman had gone missing in the town, he brought over liver and ate it with her. And at the time, he said it was deer liver. After his arrest, she went crazy and ended up in a mental institution. Wow. Because they don't know that it was deer. Could have been, we don't know. So it actually caused her to have serious mental problems.
I could see that.
Yeah.
We're up against our next break, so let's toss over to that, and we'll be back in just a minute.
And remember, everybody, the moral of the story is before DNA testing, it was important to write your name on your nipples. We'll be right back.
Mama Ruby offers fun vendor-based events that focus primarily on the metaphysical and spiritual aspects of our lives. Well, 2020 didn't go as planned, to say the least. Since Mama Ruby's can't bring the vendors to you in person, they still encourage you to support them online. For links to these and other outstanding artists, craftspeople, vendors, and psychics, visit mamarubies.com and click shop.
Well, we had a little snafu. Joe's, I checked for the show, and Joe's movie review would not play. So something did go wrong on the technical side tonight. It's to my internet or Chad's laptop. Joe's movie review did not look. We'll try to tag it on the end. Well, surely, I don't know why. Anyway, a little news item here. Ever wondered if there is an escape room that caters to the more horror-minded crowd? The answer is yes. If you're ever in Upland, California, you might want to try out Murder Company, an escape room themed around a brutal underground sports arena that features death matches and what happens when the evening's events go terribly wrong. This graphic R-rated escape room is the brainchild of John Cook, a former attraction designer for Not Scary Farm. It features high-end effects technology said to rival Disneyland. Based on the attraction's gruesome themes, it is definitely not for the squeamish. That was from the Daily Bulletin. Yeah, escape room, a horror. That's actually a damn good idea, and I didn't think it, so I won't make any money off of it. Okay. Now, we were talking during the break. She was worried she couldn't talk about somebody that was in the movie, but she can because he went ahead and talked about it on the post for the show. So, Dani.
Yes, Rob Mello is one of the stars that I got to work alongside of. So, for those who are coming to see Rob, we actually I was not in a scene with him, but I did get to work with him, which I thought was really incredible.
Yeah, actually, they put up the IMDb page. He's on it. Paul Taylor from, everybody remembers him from CyberCon, Hellraiser fame. He was in it. CJ Graham, Tamara Glenn,
Yep.
Tom McLaughlin. So this was, you got included in quite the star-studded cast here.
Incredible. I'm still having a hard time wrapping my mind around it. Everybody that I worked with was so incredibly nice. Everybody, they were funny, they were intelligent, they're all extremely talented, and just even get to watch them work and get to be on the same, share the same platform as them, it's been a dream come true at the very least.
And top billing went to Darcy DeMoss, who is friend of Scarefest TV. So
Darcy was the biggest sweetheart. I just adored her. She was so nice and so talented. I could go on and on and on about all of them. I remember watching her work and just being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm here.
So, pardon the description here, but we pretty well beat the Ed Gein thing to death. Okay, now you'll be speaking at Scarefest about it. I take it you've got the whole multimedia presentation and of course the arrowhead in your pocket, and so everybody, you could look for that. And
get there early because, like I said, there's been quite a bit of interest in it, so I think it's going to be a full house.
Well, I mean, we have some sick people that come. The point first, and I give Amber a hard time about it. She's who's in charge of everybody in the speaker program, Amber Truex, and I swear to God, if you applied to be a speaker, and you could be giving recipes, but if it says serial killer in the description, yeah, you're going to get a speaking spot. But it is a hot topic. Now, speaking of hot topics, okay, I haven't got to catch up with you, Dani. Now, of course, I guess social distancing in Alaska is just like easy as hell.
Yeah, I wasn't aware there was a difference. I didn't know.
What? So in other words, you all don't lock down. You just don't go to town as often. Is that kind of the way it worked in Alaska?
Yeah, basically, I'm like, oh, we're gonna have to use last year's salmon a little bit longer, I guess. I don't know. You have to stand 6 feet away from me when we're fishing. Back up a little bit. COVID.
So did where I was going with this before I realized I'm talking about fucking Alaska. There, did you get to binge watch anything like the rest of America?
Basically, yeah. I mean, it wasn't. I binge watch everything anyway, all the time, so I didn't really notice a difference. But I just continued with my lifestyle and continued binge watching and obsessing over every movie I could get my hands on.
If you said, okay, let's say now I'm going to assume based on your wall there behind you that when you sit down to binge watch something, it's usually a horror movie. But okay, let's say no horror movies. What is your second favorite genre to lose yourself in?
Oh man, not including horror.
Not including horror.
I really, really, really loved Ray Donovan. I probably watched Ray Donovan 900 times. TV. I'm really into TV. Outlander. I'll admit it. I'll own it. I don't even care. I love some Outlander. But Ray Donovan was probably my top. I think I watched Ray Donovan 3 or 4 times. Of course, I'm getting ready for Dexter. I know that's bordering horror now. But I'm a huge Dexter fan, so we rewatched that, getting ready for the new Dexter that's about to premiere. That's pretty much it. I did a lot of that. I do a lot of writing too. I have 2 short stories that are published, and I'm currently working on one of my books. So I do a lot of writing in my downtime.
Mm-hmm. That's something we've got to get. We meant to do it for Scarefest 2019 before the world, or 2020 actually. 2020 before the world ended, and see we did this great little journal and invited people from the fans of the Scarefest to turn in stories, and it was outstanding. It made money. It was an actual profit center instead of this pissing money away at parties and stuff. And then we were in the planning stages, and then they decided that the world had to shut down, and that was the end of that idea. And this year we have not had time to even address that. We've got to get that kicked back in gear, and to give independent authors an opportunity to share their psychosis with the Scarefest.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing to do. Writing is it's the best way to get out all your weird ideas. Like my first story was actually published with Am Inc. Rebecca Rowland, who did Tom Savini's biography, Kane Hodder's biography. I had a short story published in a horror anthology with her, and that was a huge honor, for it being my first short story to be published alongside her and some of the greatest writers today. And then my second one is loosely based off of my Alaskan version of Ed Gein. So that one was pretty sick and twisted. So for those who are into really sick stuff, writing is the best way to go.
And
podcast, we a lot of weird stuff that comes out through here.
We live on weird. Now something I'm surprised Chad didn't make. Well, actually, it's CC that asked it. I don't think it's even Chad that asked it. Anyway, because we have discovered that many of our guests that are not booked as paranormal people have a deep interest in paranormal. Do you? Are you into ghost hunting? Well, like you mentioned, it was in the kettle was in Zach Vegas thing. Is that something that you're into also?
Oh yeah, extremely. Except for I'm a huge wuss, and so I talk a big game, but the few times I've had anything happen, I run away crying. I love it. I love to sit back and watch it, and I like to shriek with everybody. But actually going and doing something like that myself, I'd probably have a heart attack and not survive. But I'm hugely into the paranormal investigation world, and I'll probably take up every opportunity I have while I'm there to go meet with some of the paranormal investigators that are going to be there.
I was gonna say, are there enough people in Alaska to actually have ghosts?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think so. I did live in a Russian schoolhouse when I was about 13, an old Russian schoolhouse where a suicide had happened. And that had some, we'll just say that had some activity. And it was not fun. I was traumatized for life. And like I said, I'm a huge wuss. So I'm like, I'll mess around. Like one time I messed around on my phone and I downloaded one of those little Oculuses that you can get for your cell phone. Nothing crazy. And I was kind of showing my husband as a joke. I was like, see, it's all BS. There's nothing here. And then a voice came through it. And I threw my phone about 73 feet. I'm apparently a football player. I didn't even know it. And I immediately just started crying, and I did take down every horror thing I owned for about 3 days and almost moved. It was a pretty big, I'm pretty dramatic, it turns out. So.
Do we have a timetable, or if they shared it with you, or do you know any insight on basically when the movie would be available?
I don't know yet. I know that we did, I can say we officially finished wrapping, so now it's going to go into production, or not production, but editing and, all that. But I will definitely keep in contact with you guys, and when I have an idea of a date that it's going to be released, I will let everybody know. But it's going to be worth it. I mean, the cast is phenomenal. The amount of people that they got to be part of this, and I can just say you guys will be pleasantly surprised. It is coming from just a fan myself. I would have been like, shut up and take my money, even if I wasn't in this film.
I'm not going to call bullshit on it because with a cast like this. Even with the exception of Exit Day. No, I almost said the wrong one. The one where they're in the prison. Kane and all them in the big underground prison. What was it?
Are you talking about Death House?
Death House, except for Death House.
Yeah.
Now, Death House.
Like Austin, of all people, was in that one. Yeah. So that's funny.
Yeah, not my favorite movie. Not my favorite. But all that being said, that was my movie review. Now we're gonna try on the way out here to actually get the movie review. Oh, and before the show is over, I do need to go ahead and say Meredith Blackwell, get better soon. Get back to work. She's had a little health scare recently, and I'm not gonna put ideas in her head. But if it was me, it would be called UK Meredith Blackwell Hospital. Sue the pants. But anyway, so Meredith, we're thinking about you,
Meredith,
and we're gonna try now to get Bonehead Weekly load. Everybody, why didn't? Let's try it. And